And we're back. And I just jumped off the camera. But I am here, and I wanted to tell you all a little bit about this post I'm making here. Um, Low production values, as always. Compensation saved my life. I mentioned that to Mitch Horowitz in response to something he was talking about payment on the 16th day of our 30-day mental diet. Um, he's been really good about keeping up with that. And I'm trying to do what I can as well. He mentioned that compensation also saved his, and he reads it every year. I listen to it a lot. It's actually a link in here on YouTube where you can follow along the words of that 1831 essay by Ralph Waldo Emerson. And, words of wisdom are important. The tune Silvio by Bob Dylan also figures into this one, but it's largely about the event that really caused me to feel like my life was in somewhat endangered, and that was the decision of my first wife to leave me, let ex-boyfriend from high school back into her life, with whom she later had a child, and then he left her. It's hard, life is hard. We make choices, and we have to live with the consequences of our choices. And these choices can impact people who can't do a damn thing about it. That's why I felt I couldn't do anything about it. But I could choose my attitude. Viktor Frankl talks about that in Man's Search for Meaning. I'm not talking about that in this essay, but maybe I will later. The important thing to remember about Man's Search for Meaning is that Viktor Frankl had gone through the concentration camps in Nazi Germany, and he said, any man, this line from Nietzsche sort of stuck with him, any man that can survive anyhow if he has a sufficient why. And he also realized that the last thing that could not be removed from a man or a woman or a person or an entity is their choice in how to respond to what happens. What happens? I almost went to a prepositional phrase or a preposition. What happens to, what happens for. I've been trying to use this tool to maintain my mental diet. Things don't happen to me, they happen for me. Or everything that does happen to me happens for me. And I can choose my attitude. What else do I want to say about that? I mean, that's such an important concept. What happens to me happens for me. What happens happens. There's a guy named Richard Sapolsky out there. He's written a book called Determined. And in it, I have not read it very closely, but I've listened to him on occasion, and he makes a pretty strong case for something I've also found myself wandering into, and that is determinism, which says that everything that happens has to happen the way it happens because of cause and effect, and nothing else can happen. So I had to say that. And I had to say that I find it difficult to believe. It's rough, man. It's rough to go through the experience of being incarnate. We get thrown into life, right? The thrownness of it. I think Heidegger talks about that. Geworfenheit, I think is the word he uses in German, that we are launched out from our mother's womb, unbidden in some ways. Perhaps we were planned, but we don't really get a lot of help there, and we're helpless at that point, and we really are dependent on being cared for. I was talking a lot about the circuits, that first circuit of mammalian survival, which gets you connected to that breast so you can suckle and feed and grow. And then you're either safe or you're unsafe. It's kind of a binary choice. And if your mother is very attentive and warm and loving, you feel safe. And you might be playful and feel confident. Or you might, as I think happened to me, feel very shocked. And addiction goes in there, right? My old Jungian analyst used to try to get me to think about it as another phrase by another doctor, actually. It's like a terrible form of breastfeeding into middle age. I don't know. But I had a hard time really getting my head around that or even wanting to accept it. I sort of pushed it away because I don't like to think of these things. It's uncomfortable. The discomfort that we can feel. Oh my. It's a matter of having reactions versus responses and automatic ones at that. A lot of us go through life pretty much asleep. And to wake up, don't you wake up? Wake up. In the present day, a million generations removed from expectations of being who you really want to be. Skating away on the thin ice of the new day. Jethro Tull came back to mind. When Why don't you wake up? Do you remember that line? If you've ever heard of that tune, I think it was on War Child. And it's a beautiful, beautiful album. There's another one in there called Only Solitaire. Brainstorming, habit forming, battle warning, weary, winsome actors spilling spineless, chilling lines. The critics falling over to tell themselves he's a boring and really not an awful lot of fun. Well, who the hell can he be when he's never had VD and he doesn't even sit on toilet seats? And I don't remember the rest of it off the top of my head, but the little snippets of things are in my head, and that one kept coming back to me like, who the hell can he be? Who the hell am I? I used to work for a company called LMI, and my mother always used to say, who the hell am I? LMI. It was Logistics Management Institute. FFDRC, Federally Funded Defense Research Corporation. And we were working on a project for the Transportation Security Administration's Terrorism Threat Assessment and Credentialing Office of trying to re-engineer their business processes, or at least document them, so they could be re-engineered. And we didn't get very far. We did it for about a year through a company called Khaki. I don't know if you're all familiar with Khaki. It's one of the bigger, integrated contracting companies serving the defense and the homeland security arena. And CACI had this contract and staffed it with LMI. They had an enterprise architecture program office themselves, led by a young lady from Sweden who sadly had something happened to her. I forget. It was a stroke, I think, and she died at a very young age, tragically. I'm still in touch with some of those people. One of them is a fellow Yellow Jacket. And yeah, so I could go on and on just by, free association from one thing to the next, from skating away on the thin ice of the new day, War Child, and Only Solitaire, and some deep cuts out there. And you balance the world on your tip of your nose like a sea lion with a ball at the carnival. That was another of Jethro Tull's tunes off of War Child. It's amazing that it's still in my head. I think Bungle in the Jungle might have been in there too, and that was a big hit when I was a kid. I had an AM radio my father had given me for Christmas, and I would listen to that. And I would tune it into WMBG, I think it was. That's for Williamsburg, Virginia, which is my hometown, and I'd be soaking stamps. I was a stamp collector with my father, also a stamp collector. And man, that kept me busy, sorting stamps, putting them in envelopes, using a catalog to figure out what their number was. And oh God, so many hours spent in that, and learning, of course, as I went, because stamps are a great education. Philatalism, philatelics. I can't even pronounce the words anymore sometimes, but there you go. This has been about not quite 10 minutes, so check in. It's rambly, it's bambly, it's bumpy, it's lumpy. And I probably will wrap it up about here. See, I got some email in or some messages in on my messages. You get text messages on phones. And I'm happy to see that. That's really makes me happy to hear from people. And I've got to be responding to them because we need conversation. Everybody needs conversation. 10:15. That's